it's just stuff like that where you, you think you know something and you think you hear something, and then, you have to know the truth. You have to know where it comes from. You have to investigate. You have to figure out what's going on. Um, it's just that. My, it's my perspective of what my marriage has been like, a certain aspect of my marriage has been like for the last 20 years. Um, so the fact that I am a liar, I think, is probably one of the things that I kind of have like the biggest problem with. Um, if I was a liar, then I would put on makeup every day and get my hair done and use the best camera angles so that I look the thinnest, and put on fake nails because that's what you all want to see. And not you, but YouTube would push me through the algorithm if I dressed to the nines every day. And I did makeup tutorials or did DIYs, 20 DIYs in a video. That would be a lie, because I'm not that. I'm a person who likes to teach detail. I like to teach technique. I don't just like to teach how to put things together. I like to show you how to put things together. I like to show the process, because if I mess up in the process, there's a chance you might mess up in the process. So I like to share when I mess up in the process so that you don't mess up in the process, if any of that makes sense. A lot of times you'll hear on other videos, you'll get a blurb of like, just want to let you know that I did this and don't do that. Like, okay, it doesn't really help me, whatever that means, but so how did that line go? I must be full. I dribbled. If I was a liar, I would do that. If I was a liar, I'd be somebody that I'm not. And I'm not going to be somebody that I'm not. I am a person who is very comfortable in her pajamas. And the primary reason I'm comfortable in my pajamas is because I spent 15 years in office clothes. And I spent 5 years before that in baby puke. No, in paint and syrup and poop and pee and all the things that come with being a nursery school teacher type of thing. I'm comfortable. I like my new clothes, their pajamas. I like when I get dressed up. I do like that too. I like my dresses. I like going out. But I'm a person who likes who I am. And I like what I'm doing. And I am true to it. I think something special about myself, and I'm allowed to, because that's my prerogative. And I hope that you feel something special about yourself, no matter who you are, or where you are, what your circumstances are. I hope we all think that we're special in our own way. And I want to share my life with you guys. I think my life has got a lot to give, and I think that I have a lot to share, and I think I have some interesting stories, and I think that I have some interesting thoughts, and I learn new things every day that I want to share with you every day. And I just am me. I don't know what you could possibly think that I'm lying about. I mean, do I tell everybody everything? No, I don't tell you guys everything. There's some extremely intimate and private details that I don't share with you guys. And I don't know that it would be appropriate if I did. So if withholding information is lying, then I guess I do. But it's not. Lying is telling the opposite of the truth. One thing people can't understand is when I talk about how I eat and then I'm not losing weight. Well, because the food that I was eating, even though it was keto, I wasn't in a calorie deficit. And I wasn't eating entirely keto to get into ketosis. I wasn't taking ketones, and I wasn't eating enough fat to get into ketosis, because that wasn't my goal. My goal was to eat low carb and no carb, because I am a type 2 diabetic, and I'm trying to control my blood sugar so I don't lose my eyesight. Which, by the way, oh, the stress last night was not good for my eyesight. Sorry. I don't want to go blind. I don't want to lose my eyesight. It is happening, but I don't want that to happen. I want to be able to drive all over the country. I want to see the Grand Canyon. I want to see the giant redwoods. I want to see Old Faithful. I want to see the Space Needle. I want to... I want to stand in Key West, in this most southern part of the United States. And I want to see the Alamo. Cadillac Graveyard, and stand on the corner of Winslow, Arizona. I want to do all that. And I'm going to do all that. And I want to see it. That's what I'm trying to say. If I keep fighting for everything to happen in my life, then I know that it was worth it. Whether or not I actually get there, just the fighting for it is worth it. If I keep trying, and I keep trying hard, I don't want to change who I am. I was given suggestions of how to make my channel grow, but that would have changed who I was. And first of all, that's a lot of work to pretend to be somebody that you're not every single day, and to pretend to do something that you're comfortable with every single day. That's a lot of work. What do they say? It's too much work to tell a lie. It's much easier to tell the truth. And what that means, if you're not familiar with that saying, is you always have to remember what lie you told to which person, and as opposed to telling the truth, it just comes naturally. So, I don't want to not be true to myself, and if I stay in YouTube at 65,000 subscribers for the next 20 years, I'm okay with that. I really don't care. I hope to be able to produce more. I'm so feeling like the itch to be creative. And Jim was very honest with me yesterday. He finally said, he's like, I'm apprehensive about letting you craft in bed. I'm like, okay, what's going on? Like, what happened? He goes, I just know that every day I'm going to come to bed, I'm going to have to clean it up. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I was like, why do you think that? And he said, because that's the way it's always been. And I was like, always been? Like, what do you mean? Yeah, I don't understand. I said, when I first started my channel, I crafted in bed. He's like, yeah, and I used to have to come home and always clean it up. I'm like, okay. I have a different memory, so I'm not trying to say that it didn't happen. I just don't remember it like that. I don't remember it like that at all, actually. But it's okay. He can remember that. I said, that's fine. If you truly feel that way, I won't. It's okay. So I probably won't be crafting in bed. I was just feeling like very ambitious because I saw some things on YouTube that I was like, oh, I can do them without glue, without too much trouble. Like, if I set up the camera laying down, I can really, and he doesn't want me to, and that's fine. And that's really okay. It truly is okay. We might start selling some of the DIY wreaths and stuff because he's like, it's too many. I'm like, you're right in a way. I'm like, I understand. And I do like how I have it right now is we have 4 doors in our hallway: the office, the bathroom, the bedroom, and the guest room. And I have 4 everyday kind of black and white country reads on them now. And the way I like it, and then I have one on the front door. So the way I like it is I like to have 5 wreaths for every holiday, one for each door. But if that's too much for him, then that, we can do whatever you need to do. The one thing we did talk about yesterday, and he was very, very adamant about, was the compromise about getting rid of the stuff. Like, I explained to him that I didn't think it was fair that you basically want me to come, like, you won't compromise to live with all of my stuff, which is fine, and I understand that, but you want me to compromise to live with no stuff. And, like, basically I have to meet you. It's not a compromise. So I think I mentioned in another video where it's like, Jimmy didn't get the concept of like halfway. So we were like, if I have 100 things and you want me to have 0 things, we meet in the middle at 50 things. And he's like, well, 50 things is too much. And I was like, okay, so that's what I'm saying. And it's like, then you want me to compromise down to 25 things. And then you want me to compromise that down to 12 things. And I'm like, you're not really giving anything. Like, you're not giving in anything. And then he got onto this thing about his stuff plus my stuff. And I was like, oh, like, I never considered that as far as the compromise. Like, when we were purging, we didn't really purge any of his stuff. Like, that's why I was kind of like upset about the compromise. Is like, I'm not asking you to get rid of any of your stuff. You were asking me to get rid of my stuff. So I didn't consider your stuff. And I know that sounds selfish, but it's actually just like, I wasn't considering in the equation. So he's like, if I have 10%, if you have 10% more than me, then if I get rid of half my stuff and you get rid of half your stuff, you'll still have more stuff than me. And I'm like, oh, so you want me to have as much stuff as you have? Like, we're talking tit for tat, item for item. I was like, oh, okay. This is a different conversation that we need to have then. Because one of the things with his ADHD that I've learned recently from ADHD professionals on TikTok, there are quite a few if you're interested. I like it because it's 1 to 3 minute lessons. Even the cooking, like, I like to learn there. That's my attention span, is 1 to 3 minute lessons. So one of the things that I've learned is that if a person with ADHD has their stuff out, they like to leave it out so they can see it, visually remind them to do it. Their stuff can stay out, but other people's stuff is clutter. And I have learned that. And one of the things we talked about yesterday is that I self-diagnosed my ADD. I didn't self-diagnose my ADHD. What I said was, I can relate to the person with ADHD, and I think that I would like to go get a diagnosis of it or find out if I have it. Like, actually have a professional diagnose me. So you can think you have something without being diagnosed with it, like, and not be a hypochondriac or whatever. It's just that one of the things that kind of was the big light bulb was, there's this thing they do on TikTok and other social medias where they say, like, this is a put a finger down challenge. And what they'll say is, put a finger down challenge 80s edition. If you know the correlation between a cassette tape and a pencil, put your finger down. If you know the correlation between a black light and fluorescent colors, put a finger down. Whatever it is. So there was a put a finger down challenge, and they were like, put a finger down challenge. We won't tell you what it is till the end. And it was literally like this. Put your finger down if you, and I'm saying literally, but I don't really know the actual 5 things. But the 5 things, it's a lot of times it's 10 things. So they'll give you like 8 things, and if you have 5 fingers down, like 5 out of 8, or 8 out of 10, or whatever it is. Well, this put a finger down challenge was, and we'll tell you what it is at the end. I had all of the 7 fingers down. And they were like, if you have 5 or more fingers down, you probably have ADHD. And I was like, what? Because that was the first realm into realizing that women, especially like girls that are our age, middle-aged, in their late 40s, early 50s, 60s, that type of thing, were rarely, especially plus size, were very rarely diagnosed because we have a different type of, because women have a different type of ADHD than men. So a lot of boys can't sit down, they can't concentrate, they can't shut up, or they don't talk. Like there was lots of, they're hyperactive in their physical body. They find out now that girls were hyperactive emotionally and mentally. So I have always said that I have these 3 reels that go in my brain. I think I've told you guys this forever, and I've been explaining this to people forever. It's one of the reasons I can't read. And I can read, but it's the one reason I can't concentrate on reading to finish a novel, is because there is nothing to engage those other parts of my brain. There isn't. Music is too distracting. Talking is too... I can follow along. That does engage it. So if I take my book out and I follow an audiobook, or if someone else is reading, I'm on it and I remember everything. I have total retention like that. But reading to myself, even when I read to myself, like if there's something that I have to read and it's longer than a column, I read to myself out loud. I do. I just go into a room quiet and I read to myself out loud, because that's what I have to do to retain the information. Okay. So I am not self-diagnosed. I'm saying I can relate to these things and I would like to talk to a professional about getting diagnosed. At this point, is there anything that I would change that they could do for me? I don't know. I think in today's technology, most of the things that I have issues with, I've learned to deal with myself. Like a perfect example, and I feel like I've told you guys this story before, so I'm sorry if I did, or if you're new, then you never heard it before. But one of the people said, and she was much younger than me, she said, does anybody else, any other neurotypical, like ADHD, she would say, like any other neurotypical ADHDers have, when you're watching a movie, you see a face and then you have to jump on the computer and find out where they're from. And I said in the comments, I'm like, yes, but without computers and in movie theaters. So I used to lose whole chunks of movies, plots and stories and stuff, or lines or words. Like just if I was focused on where I knew this person from and they said something that was slightly lower or mumbly, I wouldn't have heard it. So it's just like that. So it's stuff like that. Then the more I hear about it, the more I can relate to it. And I can't relate to everything. But every person with ADHD is not the same. So obviously you wouldn't relate to everything anyway. So if you have any of those kind of symptoms, it could be worth talking to your doctor about. There might be something that they can help you with if you have trouble concentrating on certain things. And that was a big thing in school. A big thing I had in school. I never did homework because it was super difficult. There wasn't any private space in my house. Now, my sisters didn't really have trouble with this, but there was really never any private space in my house. Everything was a distraction. I never turned in homework. The only time I ever did homework in high school was like if I was able to do it on the bus and after Walkmans came out. No joke. I'm not kidding. In the late middle, like I got my first Walkman when I was working. I was 16 already. So like sophomore year, I did some homework because I was able to put my Walkman on, and I didn't recognize it at the time, but I could concentrate on my work. And in class was horrible because when I was in the honors classes in 7th grade, it was different because people learned at my pace. The homework thing wasn't different, so I didn't stay in the honors classes. I got bumped down to the average classes in 8th grade because I never turned in homework, which of course brings your average down. So I couldn't maintain that. But in the honors classes, it was different. But in the average classes and basic classes, I wasn't in basic classes, but in the average classes or the normal classes, what they call them average, I would go stir crazy. And I think it's one of the reasons that I dropped out of high school the way I did, is because I did not have the patience to have the teacher explain this one more time because Bob didn't get it. And I say Bob because I never had a Bob in my class in my whole life. So I just didn't have the patience to listen to her explain this the third time because Bob didn't get it. Now that didn't quite end. I always have said I just don't have patience for average developing adults. I have patience, nonstop patience for children, and I have nonstop patience for adults with developmental disabilities. I do not have any patience for average developing adults that have any issues. Now, obviously, that's not true when it comes to teaching something. So if I say you guys have questions in the comments, and I come in and I answer the questions, because a lot of things maybe I didn't say clear enough, or maybe the way I said it, you didn't understand. So I'll explain it again. Will I explain it 13 times? Heck no, I will not. Will I explain it in detail if I've already felt like I've explained it in detail? Sometimes I'll go back in the video and I'll say, hey, watch 2 minutes and 32 seconds and you'll get the answer to your question. So, but I don't have like patience, and I'm sorry. All I have to do was apologize to everybody. But it's not my job to always have patience for hand holding all the time, you know? That's not my job. But when I was in school, my mind would constantly wander. And the three reels happened then. I just didn't know it because I was auditorily absorbing everything the teacher said. But visually, I was wandering or doodling or whatever. And then the third reel was always engaged in whatever conversation was happening around us, or if there was no conversations happening around us, it would be engaged in this conversations that you could have had with somebody or should have had with somebody, or you're about to have with somebody. Like, you know how you sometimes pre-plan a conversation that, oh, when I see my mom, I'm going to say this and this and this to her, kind of thing. And I don't mean it negatively, just like remind her that it's my birthday coming and whatever it is. So that's where my 3 reels were engaged. It was always engaged on the teacher. I would absorb everything the teacher said. I would have one like doodling and the other one would be like adrift somewhere. And again, I didn't realize it at the time. I didn't recognize it. I just thought that I was a creative thinker, and I was bored because they used to tell me I'm smarter than all these kids, and that's why you're bored. You're bored because you're smarter than all these kids. But maybe I know now that maybe that's something different. Maybe it is. And will it explain everything? Yes. Will it make a difference at this point in my life? Maybe not. It'll just make me feel a little bit better about, I don't want to say the fact that I failed, because I didn't fail. I dropped out on purpose. But the fact that I wasn't able to stay and do all the things that I regret missing, like my prom and senior trip and senior year in general. Yeah. The fact that I was able to concentrate so well in summer school was another thing that should have been a red flag. The fact that they take out all, excuse my language, but they take all the BS out of the class and they condense it into 6 weeks. And I could never understand. I would say to everybody all the time, why can you teach me in 6 weeks what you say it takes 8 months to learn? Why do I have to sit through a class for 8 months when I just have to take this class in 6 weeks? Why isn't high school always just summer school? Why can't I take all 4 requirements and during the year just take the electives? Oh, so frustrating. And they would only offer you you can only take 2 classes in summer school because they didn't want anybody just to do summer school. Isn't that messed up? I think it's messed up. But anyhow, I digress. So I don't self-diagnose as ADHD. I just think that I can relate to a lot of the things, and I think that I might have it. I didn't diagnose myself. I'm not treating myself for it. I'm not doing any of the therapies or whatever. I'm just talking to you guys. And I said to Jimmy yesterday, and I was like, you're ADHD, like you need to leave everything laying around. My stuff is junk. I need to lay everything around. Your stuff is junk. Like, he's like, you don't have ADHD and stop doing. I'm like, that's fine. I don't have ADHD. I still like to have my stuff laying around, and I still think your stuff laying around is junk. Regardless of why. That's just the way it is. But I said, there's a lot of things that I've been dealing with because I know that you can't really control it. The one thing that I always had an issue with the laying around of stuff is the food. As a person who overeats for many reasons, out of boredom, out of sadness, out of happiness, out of hunger, out of tiredness, out of anxiety, all of these reasons that a person overeats, just to see the food laying around. I have a glandular problem. I have an overactive salivary gland. But just to see the food laying around sometimes triggers those things. Like I see, I see cupcakes. You know what? I did have a bad day today. Let me go have some cupcakes. So that was the only thing, like what he would leave laying around, that I really had an issue with, that we really had to talk about. And I have to constantly remind him, don't forget you have snacks in the closet. Because you can't see them doesn't mean they're not there. Don't forget you have snacks in the basket, because I wanted to make sure that, and he tries, if I go out there, I bet you dollars for donuts that there are snacks on the black and white cabinet, because I haven't been there to be like, please put the snacks away. But here's the truth. I don't have to see that. As long as I'm not seeing them, I don't care that they're out. Once I start going back out there, they have to go away, because I can't, especially continue to lose weight. I can't continue to lose weight while there's food there. I mean, I have to tell you the truth. I'm being way more disciplined than I've ever been on any eating program in my whole life. That's not true. I was really, really dedicated to the Dick Gregory's Bohemian diet until it was just about killed me. And I'm dedicated to every diet for the first 6 weeks. And then you hit a plateau and you just like, freak it. If I'm not going to lose any more weight, I might as well eat whatever I want. That's what happens. So this has not been the case with the keto, because I'm not doing it to lose weight. I'm doing it because I don't want to go blind. I've said that again. But now that I have to lose weight, I might just pump it up and lose weight. What I'm looking forward to is getting whatever's wrong with my knee repaired, and then I can start moving again. You guys, I put on so much weight after I hurt my knee. Well, I shouldn't say that. Over the course of the last year and a half, I shouldn't say that. From 2019, August of 2019 to 2020, I know a lot of people have the pandemic 15 or whatever it is, but I put on 15 pounds that I couldn't lose. The doctor took me off of the metformin. My old doctor took me off the metformin, and it made me just pack on pounds. And that was my only correlation, was that when your blood glucose goes up, you become hungry, you eat more, and that's just a vicious cycle that you really can't stop without changes. Like you can't, it will keep going, because you're taking in more carbs than your body can handle, and your carbs are wanting you to release more insulin. And when you release insulin and it doesn't do any good, it just floats around there and it makes you hungry. So, you know what I'm saying? Okay. So in September of 2020, the doctor put me back on medication and I started losing the weight back. Now, I say that, but I really have been, I've told you this before. For like, I don't know, a decade maybe, I've been 360 to 365 in the wintertime and 350 to 355 in the summertime. I have basically 10 pounds of winter weight that I pack on and I lose in the summer. And most of that is due to inactivity, gardening in summer and walking more in the summer and going out, staying in the winter. And I'm sure that that's biology because that's how our bodies were supposed to be. I know with today's day and age and everything, you're not supposed to put on weight, but if you think about it, nature wants you to be warmer in the cold weather. And when you're this weight that I am, the 10 pounds don't make that much difference, keeping you warmer. But I just meant like the biology of it all, So, I just had the weight. It didn't really fall off. Like from September, I was 387. I know, right? It's not the heaviest I've ever been. The heaviest I've ever been was 415. And that was when we found out we couldn't have a baby naturally and I had to lose weight. And the doctor sent me for stomach surgery and then told me all these terrible things about the stomach surgery. And then I decided to try to lose weight myself. So I was 415 at the height of my infertility. But anyway, I guess that's what happens when you get married. You put on some pounds. Just going through a lot of things at home. That was the heaviest I've ever been. So 387 was in September. And then in December, so 3 months later, I was down to 375. So I had lost the 12 pounds. And then when I went in July, I was down to 365. So I lost 10 more pounds. Which even though I was doing keto, it was the winter and it was traveling and my birthday and all these things. But from July to... when did I go for my first? When did I get weighed next? It was right before the first MRI. And I was down to, or actually it wasn't before, it was when I scheduled it. And I was down to 332. Or actually at the time I was down to 342. No, 338. 338 it was because I was 12 pounds. That's right. So I was down to 338. And that was in like August 6th or 7th. No, August 9th or 10th. So by August 9th, I was down to 338, which is another 27 pounds. And now I'm down to 332, which from the 387 is 55 pounds. And I was 332 when I got weighed Friday morning because I always weigh myself before the MRI to make sure that I haven't done anything to gain weight that makes me not be eligible for the MRI. And it's so funny because it was stuck on 332 for a couple of weeks. And I was like, Jim, are you sure? He's like, well, I'm sure it's not broken because the point number is going up and down. And I was like, okay. Like sometimes I'm 332.8 and sometimes I'm 332.4 and then sometimes I'm 332.2 and then I'm back up to 333.8. So I was like, oh, we plateaued already. Which I'm not mad at because I'm not moving. And as soon as I start moving, I know that that's going to change. So, whether it's from physical therapy or the fact that I can actually just walk again. So I will mention too, really quick, just another reminder. Somebody had mentioned physical therapy is really good, but you can't really get physical therapy unless you know what's wrong with you. Which is why the diagnostic tools are really the most important right now. For a perfect example is when I had my knee surgery, I had septic arthritis and it had staph bacteria in it. And I asked about electric stimulation because I was watching all these people get electric stimulation. And the physical therapist said to me, we can't give you really aggressive physical therapy right now because it would be the equivalent of scratching a rash. We would risk spreading the infection. Wow, I couldn't just put that sentence together. We would risk spreading the infection throughout your body. So we have to take it easy until the antibiotic has a chance to do its thing. Okay. And then we can get into more aggressive physical therapy. So physical therapy for that type of thing is normally 10 weeks. I was at 14 because that's what the PICC line was in me for. I was out of work for 14 weeks because usually you only get 12, and then they were going to let me go, and I had to get a special letter from my infectious disease doctor that said she's being treated for a life or death thing. So I was like, all right, cool, because I would have to go back to work with a PICC line. Would have been very difficult to not get that thing snagged on everything. Plus, carrying it around all the time would have been like, oh, and then beep, 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 and then go change it and run and come down. I mean, anybody who has medical equipment that they work with knows that it's not easy. Not saying it's impossible. People do it. I just said it's not easy. So that's it. I just wanted to touch on a few things. I hope I didn't skip anything that I wanted to talk about, or I hope I didn't trail off and not finish a story, because sometimes that happens, especially as I'm getting older. But I think that I wanted to just remind you again that I'm super grateful for everybody. I'm super grateful that you choose to be here and visit with me and drink your coffee. And spend your morning with me and listening to me just spout off my brain, my stories, my life, and everything. So listen, I love you guys. As always, you take care. God bless, and we'll see you next time. Bye. This arm is the one that has problems. Hey, I'm putting this PS after the credits just to say my family member who is battling is having, took a little turn, is having to go for dialysis because his kidney output is not good. And when they rotate him on his stomach, his O2 level drops dramatically. So they're doing the repositioning thing, and they were dealing with it. He's in isolation until the 10th minimum. So just I ask you for your continued prayers and healing. I really do appreciate it. And don't forget, please get your vaccine, wear your mask, wash your hands, be safe out there.